Hi, I'm Agnes.
And I'm Natalie,
We're friends,
and coworkers.
and this is our podcast, Dinner Last Night. Nat and I share a passion for food and events.
And over 35 years of combined experience in the hospitality industry.
So pour yourself a glass of wine
Or whiskey,
and join us while we share our adventures in home cooking, entertaining,
and of course, what we made for dinner last night. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Dinner Last Night. Tonight is our Thanksgiving mini episode. If you listened to last week's episode, we talked in depth about our planning process for Thanksgiving and some of our annual Thanksgiving traditions. So on this episode, we thought we'd talk a little bit more about our timeline and process closer to Thanksgiving Day itself. So kind of what we do during the week of, what we do on the day of, and that kind of stuff. But of course, we always start with what we made for dinner last night. Now, since we recorded this episode on the same day as last week's, we actually already told you what we made for dinner last night. So, to avoid repetition, we're going to be talking a little bit about what our dinner plans are for this upcoming week. So, Agnes, do you want to start? Do you know what you're making for dinner this week?
I actually do. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this part 2 episode of Thanksgiving. Yeah, so as you know, last night I had made those sweet potato gnocchis, which were awesome. So this is kind of like my plan for the week. Tonight, I am making meatballs, and I've been trying for the past couple months to make my husband's grandmother's recipe.
Oh,
That was, I think it's, I don't know if I have all of the details of the recipe, but it was just given to me with no really like it's just like a list of ingredients. There's no measurement or anything. So I've been trying to like make him try and see. He's like, oh yeah, it's so close, but it's not it yet. So making meatballs tonight, just like traditional Italian meatballs. So nothing specific, but apparently it has to be specific. Tomorrow night I'm trying a new recipe. So I pretty much have energy like Saturday through Wednesday to make like stuff. Then like Thursday, Friday hit and I have no more energy. But so tomorrow night I'm gonna try a new recipe. It's a Thai peanut chicken ramen noodle soup. And it is from that half-baked harvest that I talked about last week. I'm trying to like try out some of her recipe. I'll probably end up buying one of her book. Just because, as I said, I really like her website and kind of the like feel of it. So I will let you know. I will let you know how that works out. Tuesday, I'm gonna make pork pineapple tacos. On Wednesday, I'm gonna make corn blueberry pancakes because it's Wednesday and I make breakfast for dinner. Thursday, I bought some pumpkin raviolis. So I'm going to make those. And so normally I get like a big piece of pork, like a 3-pound piece of pork. So I'm going to make half of it on Tuesday for tacos. And then I'll save the other half to add to the pumpkin raviolis on Thursday. And then the pork, I think I may have mentioned it before, as I said, about this 3-pound pork shoulder. And then I cut it into pieces. I like sear it, put it in the Instant Pot with a little bit of liquid and then pressure cook it for 40 minutes. And then voila, you have like perfect like pulled pork right there. So then I'll use the other half on Thursday, and then Friday is all night where we do takeout. So pizza most likely. So that's what's going to be happening here this week.
I'm just going to come over to your house every day for dinner. This sounds like an excellent meal plan for the week. Oh,
Thanks.
Al pastor tacos are my favorite.
Yeah.
Whenever I try, like, if we ever try like a new Mexican place and I'm having their tacos for the first time, I always order al pastor. That is how I judge all taco places, is by their al pastor tacos. Yeah. So I have a question about these meatballs.
Yeah.
Well, number one, know that you're probably never going to get it like just like grandma made them.
No. I know. It's a lost cause. I still try. Yeah.
And number two, I was having a discussion actually today at work with someone about meatballs or maybe it was yesterday. I don't know. What size, like we were kind of debating about what is the perfect meatball size because I
Mhm.
feel very strongly that really large meatballs, like the size that you would put in like a meatball sub, are too big. They
Right.
like, they just their texture is either dry inside or weirdly like when they're weirdly springy and spongy.
Yeah, I don't
And
like that at all.
yeah, and I've always like when my mom would make like spaghetti and meatballs, she always made really little meatballs that I
Right.
feel like most people probably would find too small,
Like
but that
Swedish meatballs, like cocktail
yeah.
meatballs almost,
Yeah,
yeah.
like really little ones, which I enjoy because then it's also just easier to eat. Like you shouldn't need to cut your meatballs up into pieces, I
Yep.
feel. But yeah, so how about you? What are your thoughts on meatball size?
Well, this is a really good question. Actually, this recipe called for like pan frying. So there's the pan that I use is going to have about an inch of oil.
Mm,
So because they're fried, I don't make them too big. I have an ice scoop, so it's about like a really small ice scoop size. Because if you make them too big, then it's gonna like burn on the outside and then
mhm,
not cook in the inside. So yeah, so about like an ice scoop, a small ice scoop, because we make a lot of it, and it's so much easier for this
mhm,
specific recipe. I've had this place in this Italian place that we've been to last summer, and I can't remember the name of the town, but anyhow, they had really large meatballs, but they were perfection, right?
mm,
Like they were the perfect texture. I don't know what was in it,
mhm,
but no, this recipe is pretty like it's not a cocktail meatballs. It's more like an ice cream scoop, small
mhm.
ice cream scoop size, and it's fine. I don't have that much of a opinion on on like meatballs. It's very important for I think Joe, but yeah, I don't really have. I try because it's fun. I think to try to match his grandmom's recipe, but
Mhm.
uh,
Yeah, yeah. Meatballs are not my favorite thing anyway, so,
yeah.
yeah. Well, I have not yet planned out my entire meal plan for, next week, but I do have some really nice little sides of coho salmon,
Ooh,
that I got from Aldi. And so I'm definitely going to be using those. We'll definitely have salmon a couple of nights. There's one recipe from New York Time Cooking again that
mhm.
I'm going to try probably tomorrow. And it's just a really nice salmon fried rice with like asparagus and broccolini. So I'm going to do that because it sounds
That sounds
delicious.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, and we don't eat I really love I mean, I love salmon, but I love fish. We don't eat that much of it though because I think Zach is a little more discerning about fish and yeah, I think he finds that it's not as filling. It's a little
Right.
bit like last week you were talking about how Joe is a big meat eater and Zach is the same. So I think that
Yeah.
he finds like that he doesn't ever feel as satisfied eating fish. But I love it. I love, like, fish and all seafood. So, anyway, so we'll be trying the salmon fried rice, and then I'll do another one. I think I had seen another recipe for, like, one where it's, like, poached in, like, oil, like olive oil, and kind of like a Greek style, with some of those spices. So I think maybe I'll do that because I have some tzatziki, which is my favorite condiment
Yeah.
of all time. So
Recently, I had this recipe for salmon, for like whole side of salmon, and it was you like remove the skin and you slow roast it at really low temperature before long. See, like I used to roast my salmon at high temperature for like 20 minutes, but I really
mhm,
didn't like the texture of it because
mhm,
I like it a little more like moist.
mhm,
But this recipe, it's I think a Bon Appetit magazine recipe, and it pretty much you put your fish on a bed of like citrus. I think it's blood orange and fennel,
mm,
and I think lemon maybe. And you put it there and you roast it for 45 minutes to an hour at like really low temperature, like 325.
mhm,
And the texture of the fish, it's perfectly cooked through, but it's also melting almost.
mhm. Yeah,
Loved it. Love it.
yeah, yeah. Well, especially because salmon is really fatty,
Yeah.
right?
So it's
So
perfect for like a
mhm,
slow roasting
yeah,
process.
right,
Yeah.
yeah. Hmm. Now I'm getting hungry thinking about thinking about next week's dinner. All right.
Let's move on to Thanksgiving.
Yes, let's move on to Thanksgiving part 2.
Yeah.
Um, so, Agnes, why don't you talk a little bit about your process, sort of like the week of Thanksgiving in the lead up?
Yeah. So, a lot of the recipes, like once you've purchased everything you need to, the weekend before, if you've made your stock, there's not too much that you can do, right? Maybe a soup if you're making a soup, maybe cranberry sauce, right? That will hold okay until Thursday
Mhm,
if you made it from scratch. But it's really not that much you can do. So a lot of time that weekend, that's the weekend on Saturday morning, the weekend before Thanksgiving, really early, I will go to the grocery store and get like a lot of the stuff that I need. And then that weekend also I will make sure that I do a deep cleaning of the house, that I figure out what everybody is wearing for Thanksgiving. So if I need to like iron anything, or we don't know what
mhm.
we're wearing, or do we have a bow tie, or like, for Owen. So like that's when I do that. I put up to date like make sure the laundry is all done, and that really everything is kind of done, because I cannot cook properly at peace downstairs if the upstairs is like in
Mhm,
shamble, or if I'm worried about dusting, or
mhm,
all those little things. So that's really what I do kind of like the weekend before.
mhm,
Let me look through. Yeah, and then maybe the Tuesday before, if I'm doing a big cheese board or something that is very sensitive, I will usually buy it the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, and also pick up the turkey, if we're making turkey or fresh meat or something like that.
mhm,
The Wednesday before Thanksgiving, I always take off work because it is the most important day,
mhm,
right? Like Thanksgiving Day, if you haven't made like, I don't know, 80% of your cooking,
mhm,
you're not gonna make it. Like Wednesday is the most critical day because you relax, you
mhm,
think you have so much time,
mhm,
and you can just prep so well and really set yourself up. I also
mhm,
make sure that I set up the table, and
mhm,
that the menu is laid out, and that everything is labeled. Like, you have to think that the day of Thanksgiving, there's so many people coming to your house. Your head is going to be everywhere. You have to remember to shower. I mean, there's just so much to do, right?
mhm,
That the more you do on Wednesday, the calmer you'll be on Thursday. So I
mhm.
take like sticky note, I put it on the plate. That's it. Like that. If somebody wants to help, right, the day of Thanksgiving, to like put platters out on the table,
Mhm.
somebody can help because you've labeled everything.
Right.
You set yourself up for success, right?
Mhm.
So anything that you can do, I mean, the Wednesday before, I brine the turkey. Anything that can, like the salad dressing for salad, is done. Any kind of like whatever is going with the turkey in the oven is already all cut up and
Mhm.
packaged and labeled. Like all the potatoes that I need, the stuffing is done, the corn spread bread is done, the bread is made and it's going to finish. Like I'm going to put it in the oven overnight to kind of like delay fermentation of the bread. All of the cheese is going to be cut up.
Mhm.
Everything is going to be pretty much like, as I said, like 80% done. It's
Mhm.
critical day. And then the day of, hopefully, all you have to worry about is the turkey or whatever like protein you're making,
Mhm.
putting your bread in the oven. Remember to shower,
Mhm.
and then that's it. And then like putting food out.
Mhm.
So, oh, you know what? I forgot to mention. I did not mention any alcohol in our
Mm.
podcast in preparation because Joe handles that part. So, and I think he'll be coming in one of the episodes to explain a little bit about like how he picks everything, but
Mhm.
he has 100% control of that.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, that's kind of like what I do. I make sure that, if you're making a pumpkin pie,
Mhm.
all of that needs to be done Wednesday. So Wednesday is really your crunch time. And then, as I say, the day of is about putting the turkey in the oven and
Right.
warming up dishes. That's
Mm.
that's also like, yeah. What about you? What are you doing up to the moment?
Um, so the weekend before, I think I'm doing the same as you, right? Trying to go early or very late at night
Right?
um to the grocery store, right? So I think for me actually, I put a lot of like thought and preparation into the grocery shopping, because a lot of times I end up having to go to multiple stores, right? That
Right.
are sometimes all over the place. So there's just like a lot of logistics involved too, in like which store should I go to first? If I go to this one, then this like perishable thing will be sitting in the car for another 2 hours. So like what I did last year, because I think every recipe that I used either came from online or I put like found the online version. I pulled every ingredient from it, put it all, like from each recipe, put it all into a Word document, and then kind of like found the redundancies, right? So if one recipe had like 3 shallots and another one had two, right?
Yep.
I calculated all of that. Okay, I need 5 shallots. And then I'm going to show you, I made like a little matrix and I still have it. I had to dig around for it. But what
Oh,
I
that's
did is
awesome.
yeah, so I it's basically like a table and each box is a different part of the grocery store. Because sometimes if you have a long list, this is actually also how I grocery shop in general, not with this
Yeah.
whole like splitting it up into quadrants and whatever, but I think about, like okay, I need all of these things and all of them are going to be in like the deli section, the produce section, the spice section, the dairy section, so that I don't have to go back or that I don't find like when I'm 3/4 of the way through my list that now I have to go all the way back to the other side of the store because there is no, I mean, I love grocery shopping, but there is nothing worse when you are trying to find really specific things and be organized than, having to like retrace your steps and go through the mob of people again. And everyone's so
Yeah.
annoying around the holidays.
Everybody's
And everything is annoying about grocery shopping nearby.
I love your method. I think what I was showing you is that I do something kind of like you. I use Excel instead of Word, but
Mhm.
what I did is you're right, there's a lot of redundancy and
Mhm.
all of the holiday,
Mhm.
whether it's butter, whether it's cinnamon sticks or
Mhm.
flour
Right.
or ginger and all the stuff. So I had made like a spreadsheet with it was in alphabetical order
Uh-huh.
and it showed like the quantities and which recipe it belongs to because
Mhm.
otherwise I forget. And I found that to be kind of practical. But I actually was thinking this year that I needed to divide it between like produce, whether like alphabetical order, but then adding a different layer with like which area of the store to make
Mhm.
it even like more efficient. But I do go usually to like Wegmans at 7 a.m. so that
Mhm.
but there's already a lot of people, but yeah, try to do it really early. And yeah, the grocery shopping is critical because also like that's why I really try to purchase some of the dry ingredients ahead of time because
Mhm.
otherwise some stores are out of things and then you have to like go to like 5 different places.
Oh, yeah.
So capturing those like dry ingredients two
Mhm.
weeks before,
Mhm.
yeah, that
Like,
helps.
trying to buy cranberries, like, 3 days before Thanksgiving is
Forget it.
you're gonna spend all day looking for
Don't do it. Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah, so I always separate it by, what section of the store things are in, and I do that with my regular groceries too. When I make a
Yep.
grocery list, I, like, list it in the order that I walk through the store.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, so I do the grocery shopping, and then yeah, like Monday and Tuesday. Last year I remember Monday and Tuesday, I did have a lot of like garnishy sort of things that I could do ahead of time. So like
Right.
toasting almonds or walnuts, chopping, pistachios, that kind of thing. All those very simple but very annoying things if you forget to do them and then you have to do them like halfway through also cooking like a million other things.
No.
Whereas like, it's kind of like preparing your mise en place,
Right,
days in advance. So the things that
right,
I could do days in advance, I chopped the pecans and the pistachios, toasted almonds, and then like had them all in these different containers. Because what I have to do too is since we host it at my mom's house, I cook the day of at my mom's house, but
ugh,
the day before I cook at my own house. So the other thing that I usually spend Monday or Tuesday doing is also thinking through, how am I packing this stuff to take to the house? Because it affects then as well, like what I can cook in advance and what I should wait to cook there. Also, my mom has different like tools than I do, a different oven. She has different appliances. Like she has like a pretty big toaster oven, which is useful for,
right,
which I don't have, right? So I kind of like think through all of that and think about, okay, how am I packing this? Also, sometimes thinking through like the things that she has. So there's a lot of conversation back and forth between us of like, By the way, do you have, like, milk at your house? Do I need to bring, like, milk
Right.
from mine, or do you have enough milk? So that's usually what I spend, like, Monday or Tuesday doing, and, just trying to get any of those, like, small garnishy things or just things you can do that, will sit. So, like, I think last year we were talking about the cranberry sauce, and it was garnished with, like, sugared cranberries. So that was
Yeah.
something I made on Tuesday,
Yep.
which maybe also wasn't a great idea though, because I love cranberries and I ended up snacking on, like, thankfully I made way too many just to garnish that thing with. So I ate like half of the container before I actually brought it for that. But very tasty seasonal snack, sugared
Yeah.
cranberries.
So good.
Yeah, so then that's usually what I do. And then, of course, kind of like sitting down and thinking through the timeline of, so I write a timeline for Wednesday and Thursday. So, like the Wednesday before and the day of Thanksgiving. And by timeline, I literally mean at what time am I going to do this? At what time am I doing this? At what time is this going to be done? And what time does this go in the oven? Because otherwise, it's just impossible to keep track. And especially the day before, right? If you happen to have any other things to do, right, like errands to run or whatever, those things won't get done if you don't put them into like your timeline of like,
Yeah.
okay, during this, I even like put a time for like when I will eat lunch so that I
Yeah.
remember. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. And then, yeah, and like what time am I going to leave in the morning to go to my mom's house?
Right.
The packing list. That's the
Yep.
worst thing, right? If you leave something that you've already prepared and like thankfully, Zach comes over later, so I can always be like, "Hey, can you I forgot the cornbread, it's in the microwave."
Yep.
The couple of days before, it's very,
Yeah,
very timed out.
I think the fact that you are starting at your house and then going over someplace else, like, is add a level of complexity because I kind of dedicate my dining room
Mhm,
to, like, as a prep area, staging area. So, like,
mhm,
you buy a lot of things that you wouldn't normally have, so you don't have a house or a home for it in your cabinet. So I just like put everything, including the platters and everything I'm going to be using, onto my dining room table
mhm.
because we use like our other dining area for Thanksgiving. But yeah, I think that adds such a level of complexity.
I mean, sometimes I've had to like, last year, I think on the way, I had to stop and get ice because I knew I would have
Yeah,
to keep some things in, like, coolers because
yeah,
there's not enough room, and yeah, and then when I get to my mom's house, the first thing I do is assign my dad his task for the day, which is clearing the dining room table. Believe me, it takes pretty much all day. But I tell him that he cannot have lunch unless it's cleared by the time lunch happens. So,
yeah.
um,
So what do you like? What do you guys like do for the table? You're talking about your dining room table. Like how? What do you put on there? Like anything special? I'm sure your parents have like tons of stuff to use.
yeah, so my mom has, a million different kinds of like tablecloths and things like that. So, depending on how many people are coming, we've definitely also had to build like makeshift tables with like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, all kinds of weird like L shape, S shape tables, depending on the number of people. And then sort of that might dictate, the tablecloth that goes down. It is always a scramble every year. I don't know why to find like the napkins. And then, they're always like wrinkled. I try and tell my mom a couple days before, like, "Hey, can you just like look for some of the cloth napkins? It doesn't really matter what color, but it's
Right.
it's always like, or it's always one short. It's so annoying." Yeah, and then I do the same as you though. That one of the first things I do when I get there too is once I've started like a few things in the kitchen, I'll kind of like go to the platters, start setting them out, that kind of thing. My mom has like a huge like array of all of these things. So I never really am concerned that, I'm not going to have something. If there is something really specific, like when I did the shingled sweet potatoes,
Had to be oval.
yeah, that I made sure I knew ahead of time that either she had what I needed or I was going to bring it. Same thing with the cranberry sauce. Like I bought a bundt pen for it. I
Mhm.
figured why not? I'm sure I'll use a bundt pen again. So no, it definitely adds a layer of complexity. And then on the table, yeah, we usually do. I don't spend too much time on it because, like I said, most of the time it's usually just pretty close family. So, we have tablecloth napkins, all china, that kind of thing. I don't usually do any kind of centerpiece because there's too much food usually.
Right.
I don't worry about a centerpiece. I know you and I have talked about it. I've never even thought really to do, like, a menu card or any kind of menu.
Mhm.
I know that you do, which but now I kind of think that maybe I should since I always make so many different dishes,
Right.
then I won't have but I do also enjoy once the table everything's out on the table, people being like, "Okay, so, like, tell us what everything is," and I also enjoyed kind of
Right.
doing that, so I don't know. I think maybe for a much larger group, though, that's probably really helpful. Or, if you have people who are, for whatever reason, like, starting to eat at slightly different times, right? Like, I know people with very young children, right? Maybe they're not, like, at the table when everybody's starting because they're, tending to that or that kinda thing, so, yeah. What about you? I'm sure you do beautiful decor.
I always try to make sure that usually the table we don't use tablecloth, right? We use the table
Mhm,
like as is and use definitely cloth napkins. And I try to get that's the kind of things I try to get ready, the weekend before because I do
mhm,
like to have them pressed and
mhm,
and all that good stuff. I started last year to do a menu card
mhm.
and you'll see a picture of it,
Oh,
right? And I actually bought the templates on Etsy
uh-huh.
and I had matching place cards. So the place cards, I started doing that. I've always done place cards just because it takes otherwise so much time for people to figure out where to sit.
Right,
So
right.
like once I said like we're ready, like I mean we're ready, like everybody find your seat, right? And also because people come with their, like, their bags and stuff like that, so, like,
Mhm.
it's so much easier to, like, assign people instead of, like, asking me as I'm carving the turkey, "Where should I sit? Where do you want us to sit?" All that. So, like, the place card is out, and then, yeah, I did that last year, and it was awesome because you can, like, completely customize it, and people took it kind of, as, like, a keepsake,
Mhm,
and it had everything, and it had everybody's, like, names, who brought dishes on there, so I thought that was a really nice touch, and I definitely wanna do it again. Last year, I had bought really pretty, like, cobalt blue. I wanted to do everything kind of like green and blue,
mhm,
because I love green everything, right? And I
mhm,
and I found those really pretty cobalt blue glasses, so I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna make everything reddy blue," but then I had more guests who actually ended up happening, and I didn't
mhm,
have any white chairs. The only other chairs that I had were red, so
mhm.
then all of a sudden I had this red mixing with the blue, and it just really didn't look right, so, like, this year, I really need to, like, get my stuff together. I think I have plenty of white chairs now because I bought a couple of extra ones, so I'll probably do like a different color scheme. Really enjoy when like you pick a color or two and then like run with it like from
Mhm,
beginning to end, so it's like abundant and like obnoxious,
mhm,
Like
mhm.
either like all blue or all red or all green.
Yeah,
I don't want to do orange because it's a little too expected.
yeah. Mhm, yeah.
So I had done like green before. So yeah, so that's kind of like what I do, and then I have like enough like silverware, like a white plate.
Mhm,
We put everything on the table, but this year I think what I'm gonna do is trying to have a side table and get some of those like those warmer plates. Those like
mhm,
you can find pretty big one online.
mhm,
So like that when people are bringing their side dishes, I can put them on those while we wait because our like cocktail hour is about an hour and a half and I
mhm,
just and the keeping everything warm is just, like, too much. So if I have those on the side and people who bring their own dish can, like, just put them on that,
mhm,
and also help. And also, just like you, we don't do that's why I do, like, I try to do a colored glass because we don't do any kind of centerpieces because
mhm,
there are too many dishes on the table.
mhm.
Yeah, so having a side table, I think, will be helpful to put all the extra dishes kind of like
Yeah.
on the side. I still think that with like 15 people, it's always like difficult when everybody's trying to pass the platters around. So,
Yeah.
um, I know like a couple of years ago, I was able to like rent some Schaefer's and I have a different like buffet setup, which made
Mhm,
life really, really easy
mhm,
because like that, you can set everything and you're a little bit in less of a rush,
mhm.
but I think I didn't like the fact that people were getting up to get food. Like, I like the idea
Right.
then that everything was kind of, like,
Mhm.
set on the table. So
Right, yeah,
so we'll see, you
yeah.
know.
What about, the day of then? What are you doing the day of?
Yeah, so the day of, I normally, like, wake up really early, take care of the bird. I make the mashed potatoes normally. and then it's all the I can't even, like, remember what I do, but it's really, like, all the finishing touches and putting the bread in the oven, and just like I have a pretty, like, strict timeline. I usually build, like, the whole antipasta, like, cheese display on the board. That takes a while. I try to make sure that, I get ready also, I make
Mhm.
sure that Owen gets ready, and but yeah, that's about all I do. People normally comes around 4:30, 5 o'clock, and then we eat around 6.
Mhm.
So pretty late, but I think some of our family members, they go to other places before coming to our house. So it kind of
Mhm.
works out because we don't wanna eat at 3 o'clock.
Right.
That's just not
No.
what
No.
we do, you
Yeah.
know?
I'm glad you mentioned, like, just getting yourself ready and, like, Owen,
Yeah,
because I always forget to just get dressed, and not
yeah,
just for Thanksgiving, for, like, all when we do my big birthday party, my mom spends the last hour before anybody comes just yelling at me to, like, "Go
yeah.
change," and it usually takes the first person actually arriving for me to be like, "Oh, hi," and then catch a glimpse of myself in the mirror and be like, "Oh, I need to
Oh,
go get
yeah.
dressed." I'm,
I
like,
know.
covered in, like, because I'm bad about, like, aprons. It's just not I'm
Yeah.
just not used to really, like, wearing aprons, on the day to day when I cook, so I don't think to do it, when I'm cooking more than I've ever it does go by in, like, a blur, right?
Yeah.
But you
That's
do
what
so much in, like, 12 hours.
That's why you really need to do a lot of things. I feel like if I do everything that I had planned to on Wednesday, then
Mhm,
Thursday I can be calm and I can take my time to get ready, because
mhm.
if I have too much to do on Thursday, like, forget it.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, my day on Thursday starts very, very early because, of course, like, I also have to add in the time of, like, packing things, getting it in
Yeah.
the car, then
Yep.
driving there, picking up ice, then, unpacking it, finding where I'm gonna put everything. And that's the other thing too that sometimes is a little bit disorienting is, I unpack everything and then I have to remember where I put it because, like, this is not my kitchen and this isn't where I put it when I bought it, and so I try and, like, kind of be organized about that, right? Where, like, I'll have one cooler that, like, this is all the produce, all the produce that I brought. And if there's stuff that, like, my mom has at her house that I'll be using, I, like, pull it out too of her, like, her fridge, and I'm like, everything I need, all produce that I need is in this
Mhm.
cooler. All of the meats are in here.
Yep.
I'll pull out all spices, whatever that I need, and keep them in one place. Just because otherwise, then I feel like I'm wasting time being like, where does she keep the vanilla again? Um,
I'm telling you, that's such like an added working in somebody else's kitchen. That is
yeah,
such like a level of complexity. So like, yeah, you're not cooking for that many people, but like, forget it.
yeah.
That's so disorienting for sure.
Yeah, yeah, so my day on Thursday always starts at the crack of dawn, but yeah, and then I kind of get into my flow and I just keep
Yeah.
going through my list, and then all of a sudden you're like, "Oh, it's 5
Yeah.
o'clock."
Yeah. People are here. Yeah. Usually like maybe 15 minutes before people start arriving, I'll get my first drink.
Mhm,
And then just to, like, calm everything down, and then once dinner is out, then I really, like, relax.
yeah.
But the hour and a half, like, cocktail hour, it's just a distraction so I can get, like, my stuff together?
Mhm. So exciting, I'm getting
And
excited just
I
thinking
know,
about it.
I know.
Alright, well, I think it's probably time for our last bite.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts?
Yeah, just remember as you're getting ready to get an incredible amount of like containers, like to go containers, not just to go container for your guests, but also containers for you as you're getting ready. If you want to do a lot of like prep work done
Mhm,
and store it efficiently in your fridge, you can get on Amazon, you can get those like the takeout container that maybe you get at the Chinese restaurants, those
mhm,
clear ones you can put hot or cold. They're really, like, inexpensive, and then you can use some kind of, like, blue tape and, like, label everything, but the organization of the fridge is critical, and
mhm.
if you have, containers that can stack, then you can just, like, work better and not forget that you had something in the fridge. Like, for instance, I had my, cranberry sauce, and I couldn't see it because maybe my fridge wasn't organized enough. So, and also it allows you to give some food away at the end of the day if maybe there's something that you're not going to eat or you have like an incredible amount of. And yeah, and I know we'll have an episode about leftovers, but just having these are things that you can do like ahead of time and get it ordered, and it'll be so helpful. So like that everything could be like you don't have enough at your home right now to get ready for Thanksgiving,
Right.
so just get them. What about you, Nat?
So for my last bite, I just wanted to give a little plug again for the same thing
Yes.
as last week. The Philadelphia community fridges, like I said, around this time of year, it's all about, spending time with loved ones and sharing and giving, and especially Thanksgiving, being thankful of, everything that you have. But also, I think it's really important to be mindful of the many people who don't have the things that you
Right.
do. One very critical thing I forgot to mention when I was talking about the community fridges last week is that um, not only are they run by volunteers, they really truly are sustained by the neighboring community as well. So the whole point of the fridges is that anyone can put food in the fridges and anyone can take from them. Nobody is keeping track of whether you are truly really needy, right? So, it could literally just be that you just need like a can of pumpkin,
Right.
and maybe that's what you take from the fridge. But anyone can also put any kind of excess that they have, whether it's just a little bit, right? Maybe you just have one extra can of soup that you just know that you're never going to eat, whether it's one thing or a whole case of things. Or when you go grocery shopping, one thing I like to do is now every week when I go grocery shopping, I'll kind of like check out the clearance aisles too for especially like non-perishable things like oatmeal packets and things like that that I wouldn't normally buy for myself. And what I do is I figure like I try to spend at least $10 to $20 on every grocery trip just to buy things from the fridge. And I really enjoy kind of finding the best deals at grocery stores. So for me, it's kind of fun too, being like, what can I get for $20 this week to put in the fridge? While we're all celebrating, I think it's important we take time to think of people that don't have the same, privilege that we do.
Right.
So yeah, so if you're interested in learning more about the Philadelphia Community Fridges, you can check out our Facebook or Instagram. It's PHL Community Fridge. If you're interested in volunteering, you can email philadelphiacommunityfridge@gmail.com. We also take donations. We use those donations to directly to stock the fridges, to clean the fridges. You can look for the links to donate via Venmo or Cash App on the Instagram or Facebook pages. And remember, if you live in South Philadelphia and are near either one of those at 6th and Titan or 9th and Mifflin, you can also contribute and take from those fridges as much as you want or need to.
Awesome. That's great. And on the website, you can find information of hours, hours that the fridge are open and all that good stuff, right? I'm
Oh
assuming.
yeah, so the fridges are actually accessible at all times of day or night.
Oh,
They're
okay.
they're literally out on the curb, immediately outside of
Wow, I was trying to figure
yeah,
how that
yeah.
works.
So there's each location has 2 fridges, one that is plugged into electricity and it's working as a true fridge and
Right.
freezer, and both of those ones actually have a shelter built around them,
Right.
that some volunteers built just to protect them from rain and things like
Uh,
that. And then they also both have, we call it a pantry fridge, where it's just a fridge that's not plugged into any
right.
electricity, and usually those are stocked with like canned goods, or non-perishable items and things like that. Mhm.
Awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for sharing.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that concludes this week's episode about Thanksgiving Part 2.
Yep.
Make sure to tune in next week where we will be continuing our Thanksgiving chit chat, but we'll be talking about Thanksgiving leftovers, the cornucopia of ideas and things that we do with our leftovers.
I love that word.
I know. It's so good, right? Well, as always, thank you all so much for listening. Remember, if you want to kind of check out anything that we've been talking about, we post links to the recipes, the gadgets, all kinds of things that we talk about on in the description of the podcast itself, or on our website, dinnerlastnight.buzzsprout.com. You are always welcome to share with us your own recipes and stories. You can suggest topics to us if you'd like. You can share with us, your preparation that you do for Thanksgiving, especially the day of. What does it look like
Yeah.
for you? You can do that by leaving us a comment or sending us a message on our Instagram or Facebook pages, Dinner Last Night Podcast. That's all one word. Or you can send us an email at dinnerlastnightpodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast, depending on which platform you're using. Leave us a rating and a review if you feel like it. It helps us. It helps other people find the podcast as well. Also, we just like hearing your feedback. And of course, while you are there visiting our social media or leaving us a review or a comment, don't forget to let us know what you made for dinner last night.
Thank you so much, Nat.
Bye!
Goodbye.